So I guess just start out. What's up, internet? We're gonna be doing a podcast because we're a bunch of fucking nerds, and that's really all there is to it. Today we're talking about Fallout. Uh, introduce yourselves, I guess.
Why don't
I'm
you go
Mike.
first?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm
no,
sorry
no.
to do that.
Go on, Mike.
New Yorker with no manners. Ladies go first, where I come from.
Fuck up. Get out of here. I'm Mike. I'm a huge Fallout nerd. I fucking love Fallout. I've been playing that game since I was 10 years old when I shouldn't have been, but I fucking love that game. I played the first one once and I died a million times. I played 3. I played New Vegas. I played 4. I played 76. I played a bunch of the mods, and I just can't wait to talk about it. Honestly, there's so much to talk about with Fallout, and I feel like we'll all speak in some aspects for the fans here. So
Because we are fans,
exactly.
right?
Some old, some new.
Fuck yourself.
Okay, shots fired immediately.
Yeah, already that was fast.
Perfect. I'm Nick. I'm also huge Fallout fan. That's what we're talking about today, if anyone had any questions. I think my first foray into Fallout was 2008 when Fallout 3 came out. I got an Xbox 360 for Christmas. I got Fallout 3 as part of that. And that was the first Fallout game I played, and I absolutely loved it. I have a special interest in like nukes and all that kind of stuff anyway. We can talk about that later if anybody wants to. So yeah, when I first sort of, I think I was 16 years old. So yeah, when this video game came out that was just like a nuclear apocalypse wasteland, I was like, this is phenomenal, and I loved it. And then obviously moved on to New Vegas, Fallout 4. I haven't played much of the original ones, Fallout 1 and 2. Unlike Mike, but I kind of like know enough about those games. So yeah, I would definitely sound a bit of a Fallout nerd as well, and absolutely love the series.
Cool.
What about you, Jack?
Obviously, I'm Jack. You can see that right there, which I think is clear. I'm not nearly as big of a Fallout fan as both of you guys, obviously, because I played Fallout 3 when it came out. I don't remember all that much about it. I played Fallout 4 when that came out. I don't really remember all that much about it. And I think it's just because I think Bethesda writing has kind of diminished over time. Like Bethesda used to be one of the games that I would immediately buy any game that they came out with by far. And I just don't think that it's really as good as it used to be personally. And I'm currently playing New Vegas. I played that for a while when it came out, but I don't really remember ever beating it. So I have recently started another playthrough of it. I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell exactly how far into it I would say that I am, but I'm.
Well, you've been streaming it for us, which
Yeah.
we've been very grateful for.
So okay, how far would you say that I would be? Midway, halfway, less than that? Because I haven't. Because I like doing the side quests, and I haven't done that many. I would say so. Yeah.
I think you're still very much in the position where you're not expected to make a commitment yet.
Yeah.
Would you say that's fair, Mike? I think you've still got time to learn all the factions and what they want to offer to you, what they want to do for the Mojave. So you're still very much, at the beginning of the main storyline. I would say maybe a quarter of the way through. What do you reckon,
really?
Mike?
That short? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, either way, that's about as far as I've gone. And like I like the games. I like the way that they work, and I appreciate that New Vegas is much more RPG than action game, which is obviously what the later ones kind of become. But yeah, I would say my Fallout experience is significantly more limited than both of yours. And I mean, both of y'all are kind of like encyclopedias when it comes to lore as well, and I am not. So I guess take that with a grain of salt for the currently 0, but hopefully more than that listeners that we eventually get. Yeah, I would say that I'm not an expert. Yeah, hopefully we're aiming for 1 right now.
Maybe there's a perk we can get that encourages listeners.
Well, you're the famous one here, so we're relying on the fact that you are have any popularity at all, because otherwise Mike and I think the only people that would listen to us are rad roaches.
Great. So no pressure on me then.
No, honestly, there's no pressure at all. Like, you know, I think that this is like a common thing because podcasts are so popular nowadays, and everybody wants to do a podcast on something.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
I
So
agree.
this is just our attempt at it more than anything.
We'll have it. Well, we can have a good go. So let's talk then about Fallout and Pro. So I suppose in terms of this podcast, what we do every weekend basically is hang out and watch films, TV shows, play games together. If we're not playing online, one of us is streaming, we're chatting about it, and we figured, well, we're talking about it anyway, let's record it and everyone else can listen to our bullshit,
Idiocy,
I suppose. So we're talking about Fallout today. We will be talking about something completely different next week, possibly, and so on and so forth. I suppose, I mean, I don't know about you guys, I would be quite happy for people to suggest things for us to watch.
Totally. Definitely.
As well, to talk about. I think we're pretty good in terms of, I think we all have sort of similar but very different opinions on certain things. So that's what we're doing. But obviously today we're talking about Fallout. So let's jump into that one. Mike, let's start with you. As a sort of hardcore fan, what was your take on the Fallout show? Because I think we've seen a lot of video games translated onto, the big screen, etc., and it just hasn't worked. So I think everyone was very, not necessarily quietly, some people were quite outspoken in their skepticism for this. So in your opinion, how it talk to us. What were your thoughts?
Well, I was really surprised. I felt like this show was a make it or break it scenario for Bethesda.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
A lot of people have been waiting for a game. A lot of people have really been wanting them to follow up after Fallout 76, because Fallout 76, when it began, it was a failure. They did update it, got better over time. I'm not saying I enjoy the game. I know you guys enjoyed playing the game. I didn't, but regardless of that, when the Fallout series came out, I was really surprised. I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. I really felt like they tried their best to follow with, the lore. I really felt like they tried to be as accurate as possible. Of course, there were some errors. I don't think everything's going to be perfect. When you translate into a Hollywood TV series, it's it's not always going to be 100%. But I think that for all the hardcore fans out there, they should be a little more lenient on that and kind of look into a lot of the great aspects of the show. For one, I felt like the portrayal of the Vault Dweller, Lucy, I mean, it was fantastic. The first scene that they portray of her, it's literally her special stats.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was cool.
How else do you portray a Vault Dweller without showing their special stats? I mean, that was fantastic. And
yeah, I enjoyed that.
She's not perfect at everything. I think that makes so much sense for a Vault Dweller, compared to, honestly, the game, Fallout 3, where you just walk out and you're clubbing people left and right, I think it just made more sense, honestly, with Lucy. The Ghoul, love him. Yep. I love that they made Vault Boy an actual character. Our mascot of the game is an actual character, and it's played by Walton Goggins.
Yep.
That's fucking awesome. And Maximus, great character. I would like to see more with him. I want more with the character. I feel like some of the writing was a little bland with him, but also I understand the character's struggle and why he acts this way, why he's so closed off, with his emotions, especially with his upbringing. It's all around. I really enjoyed it, and I watched the show the day it came out. The whole show, I finished the whole show in one day. So, absolutely great show. What about you guys? What do you think?
Well, Jack, let's have your opinion, because if we're going to say that Mike is a mega fan and you're relatively new is not the right word, is it? I think you're a little bit sort of set back from the.
I just wouldn't say that I'm a mega fan. I would say I'm a very casual fan of Fallout more than anything. I'm just kind of general. I'm into more general nerdery.
Mm-hmm.
I was one of the ones that was skeptical about it, especially with the fact that they all of a sudden kind of released it a day early, which, by the way, I was wrong about. I will say that I enjoyed the show.
Yeah.
But I was not expecting a whole hell of a lot, because Amazon's really hit or miss with me. I like The Boys. Obviously, I think Invincible's a good show, but then they also have things like the Lord of the Rings show, which makes me want to jump off a balcony. And I will say, well, that's kind of one thing that about me. I would say that I'm more of a skepticist, yeah. More than anything
Skeptic.
about skeptic, yeah. Thank you. Um, more than anything about a lot of shows, and I don't know. I like being proven wrong, and I was definitely proven wrong by this show. And I would say that I was proven wrong by this show on episode 1 because as soon as the bomb dropped, I thought that that was a really powerful moment. Obviously, by the way, that there's going to be spoilers for the games and the shows
Oh yeah, we should
and the
probably
show
mention
for
that.
this. Yeah, we should have mentioned that earlier, but we haven't really delved into it. And obviously, the bombs are going to drop. Anybody that knows Fallout knows that, so that's not
Yeah,
really.
spoiler alert: there are nuclear warheads in Fallout.
Yeah.
Really?
But that scene I thought was like particularly powerful, and I even rewatched that earlier this week about it because the first one you kind of like realize that that's coming, but then as he's riding away on the horse and all the other bombs dropped, I thought that that was a really powerful scene, and it kind of hooks you immediately in that regard, which is a really difficult thing to do in terms of like cinematography and storytelling and everything. Um, it is weird, I think, translating a video game into a show, and it's obviously, I would say, a little bit less difficult than translating a book into a show because you have very definitive ways of the way that the show is supposed to look, as opposed to books where people always kind of imagine it just a little bit differently, which I did like about the show. Like even just like the little cases on the back wall where a gun was sitting in it, like cryolators or whatever the hell that they were in whatever they were supposed to be in the show. I appreciated that they really stuck well to the games for the most part. And overall, it really felt by the end of it, it felt like, frankly, just kind of like a Fallout campaign, which is, I think, exactly how it should have felt. And I really enjoyed the hell out of it. I was very impressed. I also watched it in a day, I think. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. And that's kind of my opinion. I didn't think that it was going to be good. I was very impressed with it. Not my favorite show of all time, because I do think that there were things about it that I didn't like. Like I agree with you, Mike. I think that Maximus was a little bland, and they're obviously going with the kind of more Fallout 4-ish Brotherhood vibe than anything, which is not my favorite iteration of them.
Same here. I prefer the technocrats.
Right. I think it's
The
more fun that
psycho-
way and keeps them a little bit smaller.
It does. It really
Yeah.
does. And I felt like that's why, I mean, in Fallout 3, I prefer the Outcasts. That's why the Mojave chapter in New Vegas is awesome.
Right.
Nick, what did you think about it?
Yeah.
I want to touch upon this this opening scene actually, just very very briefly, because I really enjoyed it. And same as you, Mike. I was really impressed with how loyal they were to the sort of game lore. But this opening scene, I loved it because as I'm watching it, if you remember, they were in this bit here. They were all taking lots of photos, and there were lots of flashes.
Mm-hmm.
And I was waiting because obviously when you detonate a nuke, hopefully we'll never have to experience that. But obviously when a nuke is detonated, you get the flash and then the explosion, etc. And then you see the big mushroom cloud. So I knew as all the flashing was going on, I was like, right, there's going to be a super mega powerful one in a second.
Mm-hmm.
How everybody else reacts to that. So I loved it. That was, for me, that was the telltale sign that it's coming. What I wasn't expecting was multiple detonations, which was incredible. But yeah, so I really, really enjoyed this. As for the rest of the series, again, yeah, the opening with Lucy when they're going over her special stats. Because if you're not a fan of the games, you won't have had any idea what was going on. It's just Lucy explaining who she was, and what kind of things she enjoys. But in the games, if you're not familiar with the games, when you first create a character, you have your special stats, which is strength, perception, endurance, charisma, intelligence, agility, and luck. And you assign points into each of those. And that gives you a character build. So that's essentially outlining your strengths and weaknesses. And that's what Lucy was discussing, sort of her introduction, which I really enjoyed. I think Maximus, I was really excited to see where they were going to take the Brotherhood with this. I'll be honest with you, I think it fell a little bit flat.
Yeah.
I do feel very much that the Brotherhood was an introduction. I'm assuming they're going to do bigger things with them come season 2, because I feel like we had a really, really strong start with Maximus, and a really, really strong finish where you could see, the acting ability was there. And it really made you feel for this character. But in the middle, I don't know if the writing was weak or if that was how we were supposed to sort of see that character. I just felt that he was very, very flat and didn't have a lot of range, and almost as if he was more of a filler character, in my opinion. However, I think now that they have the fusion core, it's not fusion core, is it? What is it? Fusion.
Cold fusion.
The fusion technology.
Yeah.
The what is it?
Cold fusion.
Cold fusion. Thank you. This is my brain not working this weekend. Now that they're in control of that it'll be really interesting to see where the Brotherhood takes that.
I think they're going to transition into the villains, honestly, of next season.
Oh yeah,
anything, because that's like an unlimited amount of power. Like they have to be the villains at some point.
Right, and I really want to talk about power, but in this. Talk about that in a minute.
Okay.
But the goal as well was fantastic. Because obviously we see pre-war Cooper, as Mike says, he's Vault Boy. He's the face of Vault Tech. So that was really good to see. And then not only that, but what his kind of like more intimate connections with Vault Tech were, which was a huge shock. And then the Ghoul was just a fantastic, interesting character. Anyway, I feel like he's become a fan favorite very quickly, but yeah, on the whole, I was very impressed. I think it was the very last scene of the series that blew my mind, but we can talk about that in greater detail in a moment.
Oh yeah.
But yeah.
I think it blew everybody's fucking mind.
Yeah. I think, honestly, I think that it was maybe like the perfect hook for them to end it. Like, that's one thing about the show that I really appreciated. They didn't just hurl super mutants at you. They didn't just hurl death claws at you. They kind of just introduced the world and didn't give the audience everything that they wanted to see in the first season alone, which I think would have been really cheap, honestly, and like not great writing.
Did we see a super mutant?
No.
At the Enclave?
I don't think so.
What was that on the stretcher?
I don't remember anything on the stretcher.
I'm gonna have to find a picture of this. In the Enclave episode, when he's walking out with the dog, and they push this like table with a cloth over it, and there's that big arm hanging out from under it. What was under that?
Oh, really?
It might not be a super mutant. But my brain thought, ooh,
interesting.
Maybe it's Frank Horgan.
Who's that?
He's the villain of Fallout 2. He's a super mutant Secret Service agent that fought for the Enclave. Spoiler alert, he dies at the end of Fallout 2.
Hey, but we said spoilers, and that game's old as shit. I feel like it's one of those ones where, like, if you spoil it at this point, that's not really on us. That's an old enough game. Like, if we were like, hey, get this, Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker's father. Like, it's at that point where it's everybody. It's either you know it because you want to know it, and if you don't,
you should by now.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
I'll see if I can find it later. But there's definitely a scene where he's coming out with the dog, and I think they do like a scan on him, and there are two guys walking with a like a hospital table, and it's got a white sheet over it, and there's a big arm coming out underneath it. And there might have been some groaning or something, but that was where I thought, oh.
I mean, that would make sense for them to be doing experiments on super mutants or trying to maybe find a cure for it, I guess, since they're such a...
No, they they purposely created the FEV virus. They ain't looking for a cure.
The Enclave specifically, I thought that was West Tech?
Dude, a part of the Enclave.
Oh, are they? Okay. See, this is, again, you guys know this way better than I would, so...
No, but like honestly, dude, like I think it's good to have an opinion of somebody that that isn't that familiar with the Fallout universe.
Definitely.
Because there's a lot of people, that are just learning about this world and have questions. They have opinions about it, and honestly, I think that I think the Fallout universe can learn something from some outsiders too. I think Walton Goggins is a perfect example. He didn't even like play any of the video games. He just jumped right into the character, and I mean, look at how he did. I mean, you would think that the guy fucking touched on everything like it was the Holy Bible. You
The
know?
thing is I think his character was so well written that it could have fit into almost like even if it wasn't Fallout, I think it would have fit in any universe because he just kind of played like ghoul cowboy more than anything, and he plays a mean cowboy. Goggins was awesome in this show.
Mm-hmm.
He was phenomenal.
Yeah,
definitely, and I just love that it. I love that it brings that like Western feel to the show, you know,
definitely.
and that's always how Fallout games felt to me, especially New Vegas. You know, with the music and you know just the atmosphere and everything. I'm really happy that they're bringing that back, and you know, obviously when we see at the end of season 1 where they show New Vegas, we're gonna you know get some answers to some of our questions, you know, about you know what happened. You know, with New Vegas, what happens at the end of New Vegas, you know?
Right. And I know I've already spoken to both y'all about that. They're going to have to pick something as official canon, which I think that's going to be a particular challenge for them. I think, which I'm excited to see what they go with. I do think that you immediately tried to do like your own little investigations and like look at that city. That looks fucked up. So something has clearly happened.
Well, I think that you know something definitely doesn't look right with New Vegas, and I thought that because of the lights. But then I remember Nick telling me that the lights go on at a certain time, right, in the game.
Yes,
and
that's right. I had to go and check. I was like, surely they turn off during the day. I'm not sure, but they do. 6 a.m. Is when the lights turn off in New Vegas. There you go.
And would you say that this is like morning, like early morning? Like
yes, because sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Yeah, because if you remember, as Hank is walking towards New Vegas, the sun is coming up behind him. It kind of looks a bit like a mushroom cloud. It's very, very cleverly shot, but it's the sun coming up. So just as he's approaching New Vegas, it's break of day.
Well, it takes place. The show takes place in California, right?
Yes.
So he's going east to New Vegas, and if the sun's coming up behind him, that means that it would be in the west. So would it not be setting there? Maybe.
Listen, Jack.
Look, they literally just came to my mind. I didn't mean to throw off your theories on this.
No, but like I mean, but that could mean you know, if that's true.
Well, let's be honest, because anybody who's been to New Vegas knows that trying to approach from the east is not. You're going to have a bad time because you can either take the Deathclaw approach or the Cazador approach. So maybe.
Oh, shitty.
He loops around.
Okay, that's fair. Honestly, that's fair.
I'm reaching with that one, but
what if also because we saw a Deathclaw skull?
Yeah.
When he arrives, what if he did take the Deathclaw route, and what if you know the what is it? Junction? What is it called?
Quarry Junction.
Quarry Junction. What if that was wiped out by the dear old courier? You know.
Don't spoil anything, by the way, for New Vegas. I still haven't. Well, I guess you're gonna kind of have to, right? Like if we're talking about it, I feel like you kind of have to.
We'll do our best.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I.
No, you're fine. You're fine. You're fine. I don't even think I've been to Quarry Junction in the game yet. So if I have to like mute myself or just duck out for a second, that's fine.
In that case, Quarry Junction is a very safe and fun place, and there's lots of treasure for you to go and pick up there. So
that's where Deathclaws are.
Shit.
No.
No. Right. Yeah, it's a place with a lot of really cool loot.
Yeah. Fresh water, I'm sure. Plenty of that. Yeah.
Yes.
There's actually it's like a city in it.
Y'all are both so full of shit.
In there.
There's a bit cap stash as well, isn't there, Mike?
Yeah, right.
I'm not buying it. I'm not buying this even a little bit.
Yeah, it's really safe.
Yeah, there's like 50,000 bottle caps and we're hidden there. Yeah.
Right. Loads of stim packs as well. And ran away.
Yeah.
Well, this blew my mind. I was losing my shit because I was not expecting any sort of reference to New Vegas, let alone Mr. House. That was a mind fuck in itself. I went absolutely berserk. Mr. House is my favorite character. I know that says a lot about me as a person. We maybe don't need to delve into that there. But yeah, that was a big deal. And then to see New Vegas at the end was just absolutely phenomenal. Because Mike, I think New Vegas is your favorite as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I love New Vegas.
Yeah,
I think it's relatively well known as like the best. Like it's one of those kind of unanimous decisions where everybody that's played it sort of says that that's the most popular one, which is exactly why I'm playing it right now. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just the whole thing with New Vegas is that, like, you start, like, the whole game, like, you start off, like, in the wasteland. It's dreary. It's, you're constantly running into bandits and, trouble. And then all of a sudden, you end up in the strip, and it's, like, the most, like, beautiful place you've seen. Like in the point of view of, like, the courier, Like, he's never seen anything like this. He or she's never seen anything like this. So I really, like, appreciate that, like, when you play the game, it really immerses yourself in that, like, experience. Like, like, once you enter the strip, you hear "Ain't That a Kick in the Head" by Dean Martin, like, it really sets off in the atmosphere. And I really wonder if that's going to be the same when Lucy's dad steps into the strip. I wonder, like, if, well, I wonder for once if everybody's fucking alive. I wonder if the music's still playing. I wonder, who's in control. I like, I know you're a huge fan of Mr. House. Mr. House is cool, but can't stand the guy half the time. But I think if he is alive, or if he has something to offer Lucy's dad in this case in the show, I really think that he can really play out into what comes next. In the middle of season 2, or like toward the end of season 2. I'm really curious to see what they do.
They have to utilize him. I feel like it would be a huge mistake for them to not utilize him in some way.
This is fantastic because this is exactly what I would like to talk about today. Specifically, is Mr. House.
Oh, really?
Because, for a change, because I think his involvement has been left ambiguous on purpose. However, I don't think it is all that ambiguous, and this is a lot of speculation. But within the New Vegas games, Mr. House is sort of very clear on his stance in terms of how he feels about the post-nuclear wasteland. And so to me, it would be very strange. I mean, he makes little comments about, like, look outside. This is what democracy has brought us. He makes a throwaway comment about caps passing for currency, right. And all of his hard work and ambition being ruined by stupid idiots who decided to go to war with each other. I'm paraphrasing. So it's very interesting to see him at the Vault-Tec meeting. However, he was the only one who was sort of critical of what was being suggested. He wasn't throwing suggestions in for the vaults, and that's not because he's a lovely person. It's far from it. He's excuse me. He's a very ambitious man who has had a lot of success. He's essentially built himself back up from the ground up, because I think was it his brother who sort of usurped him.
Really?
Yeah, claimed a lot of his inheritance. So Mr. House built Robco from scratch, and then later he took over Repcon.
Yeah.
So he's worked really, really hard, and from in my point of view, it seems like he's very resentful of the fact that war has completely obliterated that, because his main purpose with New Vegas was Las Vegas, I suppose, was to save it. He had that's kind of the whole point of the game, is that it's not a spoiler as such, Jack, but the platinum chip that Benny takes from me at the very beginning is a software upgrade. It's an operating system.
I do
And
know
it's like
that. I have gotten to that point where
yes.
that's not a spoiler for me, so you're fine. Anyways, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. I'm being very careful to not spoil it.
You're okay.
And the whole point was that the operating system would upgrade Mr. House's, resources as such, so that he could either, I think it was to disable the missiles remotely, shoot down any that he couldn't immediately disable, and that would save the strip and the surrounding area. But I think a handful got through. It wasn't that many. If there, I want to say there was something like 40. It was a little bit more than 40 that was on its way to New Vegas.
Yes.
40 nukes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
So the thing is, when you speak to Mr. House, he explains that if he had the platinum chip arrive on time, he would have been able to probably knock out every single nuke that was coming into Las Vegas. But instead, with the software that he had at that moment, he was only able to knock out 90% of the nukes, which is incredible, but still was devastating, obviously, to the whole area.
That seems like an excessive amount to send to one city as well. So,
well, I mean, you saw Los Angeles in the show. They dropped. Just in that scene, we saw 4 nukes drop. We don't even know how many nukes they dropped in that area.
I mean, I guess that's fair, but 4 would take out one city. I would feel like I don't know.
Well, it depends on the size of them too.
Yeah.
The what? I'm sorry.
It depends on the size of them, and also I think because Fallout comes from not that because technology has obviously progressed. I think that because it comes from the cultural 50s, I feel like they still kind of kept maybe, I don't know, the same size nuclear bombs that they use. Well, I don't know, because they were nuclear missiles, right? Or were they nuclear? Were they dropped from planes or were they shot over?
Here's an interesting point. Because someone raised that in that opening sequence with Walton Goggins, you don't see anything fall from the sky, even with the subsequent detonations.
Right.
So who knows?
Were they already there?
They should be possibly.
Yeah.
But yeah, they should be missiles. And it depends entirely on the yield, because if you look at the sort of first nukes, they were tiny compared to what we're playing with today.
Right.
So yeah, if they just got a bunch of smaller yield warheads, then it makes sense that they would send multiple.
Okay. That's fair. I mean, I've kind of told y'all what I think is going to happen with, because obviously the end of the world is a huge hurdle in terms of progress, and I think that's why Mr. House was maybe one of the only ones kind of on board with the whole thing at the meeting in the show. So
absolutely.
I don't know. What? I'm sorry. No. Go ahead.
His whole philosophy and his whole we're talking about progress. He wants to send humanity far past the Earth. Mm-hmm. He wants to find hopefully a planet that can sustain life, and he can start anew in his own vision. Mm-hmm. And you kind of see that theme being played out throughout Fallout, because believe it or not, this is pretty similar to what the ghouls in the Repcon facility want with Jason Bright.
Right.
They want to go to what do they call it again? They call it something. The Far Beyond, I think. Something like that. Something like that.
This is the little group who have the human running around for them who thinks he's a ghoul.
Yeah. So I thought that was a little funny. That's kind of a running theme. Everybody kind of wants to go to the stars, but Mr. House kind of explains he wants to shoot out into the stars and find a better way for humanity, because he thinks that's the only way for humanity to progress, is to escape whatever this is. Because he explains to you, look around you. This is the ruins of what humanity's done to itself, and mankind needs to kind of start anew, because it's just going to constantly repeat itself.
Because war never changes.
Exactly. Though.
Exactly.
The thing is with Mr. House, though, this is a man that's 200-something years old. He is old. He is fucking probably, he's definitely not all there. He's not all there. A guy, well, especially for a guy to be this intelligent, he's not all there. But he's definitely, definitely a little bit more cuckoo than he was 200 years ago. You know, I would say a lot of events that take place in Fallout New Vegas have probably caused a lot of strain on him. And, you know, especially not having the platinum chip for 200 something years has definitely caused so much strain on him. So I just imagine that, like, despite how great his like outlook is on, you know, the future of mankind, I feel like he's not necessarily the guy that people need to follow or should follow to be the future of mankind, because he's not exactly all perfect. He doesn't really care about people, actually. He doesn't care about, you know, casualties. You know,
he just cares about progress.
He cares about progress. He knows that certain people need to be cut out, you know, in order for progress to be, you know, to happen. I mean, if he really cared about everybody, then, man, he would be helping people in Freeside. You know, people in Freeside are devastatingly poor. You know, they have to pay water. You know, they have to pay money to get water from the Kings. You know, like it's bad compared to the Strip. The Strip
That's super interesting, Mike. Which faction do you pick in New Vegas again?
Well, let's not get ourselves carried away.
What does your good spring look like? Is it just is it a bunch of corpses draped over all the decorations in that city? Right.
This faction looks fucking dope, okay? Football here. They wear fucking helmets. They speak Latin. They're fucking awesome, okay?
No, it's funny. You've made a really, really valid point about Mr. House. And the Legion is such an interesting plotline to follow. I just want to go back to what you said about Mr. House not being all there, because he even says himself the amount of effort it took to get him online to where he is now. He was dormant for a very, very long time in a coma, and he had to reboot himself from an old version of his operating system just to get himself online. And he even says, I can't remember the exact wording of it, but he says the amount of, you know, what he's lost along the way, not only in terms of caps and finances, but in himself. So I don't think it's such a far-fetched, you know, sort of claim to make that he might not be all there, because I think a part of him probably knows that himself.
I think the end of the world kind of brings about the insanity in people. That's one reason why I kind of like zombie stories a lot, is just because it shows people who they really are. Like, and, you know, the apocalypse, I think, is kind of the same scenario. It makes people sort of devolve into their more animal instincts a lot, and frankly, like I said, bring out sort of like the insanities in them. So he's probably crazy, especially as smart as he is. He probably has to be a little bit, kind of a couple of screws loose. The extra screws are just particularly tight, and that's why he's very smart.
Yeah,
or something like that.
But I don't think we'll see him siding with Vault-Tec. I really, really don't.
No, I don't either.
I agree.
But I do think he probably went along with it just to, someone else said, it might have been one of you guys, he probably just nodded along just to get out of that room.
Been there.
It's inevitable.
So yeah,
it was inevitable. He couldn't stop it, but he only knew what he could, you know, what he can control, you know. And I feel like in some ways that kind of makes him like a stoic, right? Like he kind of controls what he can control and not what he can't. Doesn't try to, you know, overextend himself. Hence why he only focuses on the strip in the game. I really love diving into his brain, because he is like one of the most, honestly, one of the most remarkable characters in the game. You know,
I would agree. Yeah,
definitely well written.
I think he's very well written, and that's why I enjoy him so much as a character, because he does have such a sort of unique perspective as someone. Because essentially, he does want to control the script, the strip. He even calls himself an autocrat. He says that, again, paraphrasing, people are too stupid to make decisions for themselves. And when you kind of listen to his reasoning in terms of, like he says, look outside. This is what democracy brought us. We're literally living in a nuclear wasteland. You can kind of understand where he's coming from in that setting. So he's not a good person at all, but he never paints himself as one, I don't think. I think he's very arrogant. He's very well aware of his capabilities, but he never pretends to be all fuzzy. He's very self-serving from the outset, but again, he doesn't pretend to be any different. And I think that's why I find him such an interesting character, because you can't help but listen to what he has to say and kind of, you're like, you've kind of got a point there. It's not a nice point, but it's it makes sense.
That's one
He's
thing that I
very
appreciated about the show, by the way, is that it didn't really like things weren't all just like hunky dory. I like that it was dark when it needed to be dark. It was pleasant when it needed to be pleasant. I thought the show was really good in capturing the kind of like Fallout vibe
Yes.
overall, I would say.
The
yes,
dark sense of
definitely.
humor,
Yeah.
like, and the seriousness, like, I mean, it was fantastic. Like when Lucy had to cut off that Enclave scientist's head, and she was just
Oh yeah.
like okie dokie, like this fucking poor naive woman that just came out of the fucking vault. You know, this is her first experience of the wasteland, and you know,
Mhm.
it's just a huge reality check. And
Yes.
Well, at least the scientist was wrong in that regard, because didn't he say that he didn't believe that she had what it takes to do what was necessary to survive in the wasteland? But, you know, she did at the end. You know, obviously, I
he
thought
was.
that
He underestimated her, and I think most people do. I think most people are going to underestimate Vault Dweller. You know,
especially
somebody.
people from the Enclave.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
I mean, for one, her and her brother's dynamic, like, you know, even though we only get to see them together for like the first two episodes,
Mhm.
I still love how, you know, despite the fact that she's not in the vault, he still kind of carries on the family name, and it has a lot of weight in the vault. And I forgot the name of her brother. I think, is it Norm?
I'm literally looking it up right now because I wanted to
Yeah,
make sure, because I
Norm.
forgot his name. Yes, Norm.
He was phenomenal. He was absolutely great. But like I love that both of them kind of carry on their family's name with a lot of weight. Like they both have kind of like a mission, you know, that's necessary, you know, to the plot line, you know, or that's relevant to, you know, uh to, I guess, like the overarching you know, just everything. Really,
Mhm.
not just like one plot line, but just everything. Like what's happening in the vault, I feel like also affects what's happening outside in the wasteland, you know,
Mhm.
because what's happening in the vault is literally, you know, spoiler alert, it's the fucking Enclave, you know. They're there, you know, and
Right.
they've been fucking preserving themselves for fucking hundreds of years waiting for this fucking cold fusion. So, and you know, I really want to see what Lucy does now with the ghoul, because they left us off with
Yeah.
her with the ghoul, and I imagine they're going to enter New Vegas, you know, on their own, like in their own way. And I
Yeah.
wonder like what towns they're going to cross. Like I wonder if they're going to pass through Good Springs. I wonder if they're going to, you know, I just wonder if we're going to, you know, see things that we wanted to see that are in New Vegas, you know, that we want to see in the show, you know, and I really can't wait to see how Lucy like is able to experience that.
They had a nice dynamic, by the way. Lucy and the Ghoul, I thought they played off each other really well. I would say significantly better than Maximus and the other guy, his squire, whatever that guy's name was. Um, I liked where they were going with it. I liked that they were kind of getting to be buddy buddy, and then he was like, "Oh, hey, it's Maximus. I have to kill you." All of a sudden, that seemed a little bit jarring to me, and
Yeah.
out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And there were a couple of instances of that where I thought some of the writing was sort of in there just for tension more than anything. Like even just when the ghoul took Lucy to the
Super
organ.
duper moment.
Yes, thank you. The organ harvesting place. I thought it was even like him cutting off her finger after she bit his off. And then they had the Mr. Handy sew it back on or give her the new one or whatever. I thought it was kind of pointless in that way because they were just going to harvest her organs 3 seconds after that regardless. So I thought that the whole like finger biting thing was more just for like, whoa, look at this, and then it was kind of ended up being pointless anyways. And I don't know, stuff like that I don't really love. And like Maximus offering to kill or threatening to kill his squire out of nowhere, I thought was kind of pointless. It was more like just an excuse for them to split up at that moment more than anything. Which I mean, I guess you kind of need in storytelling, but I thought that it could have been a little bit more. I don't know. I don't know what the word is. Necessary. Like it could have just been
A little more
a little better,
sensible.
more sensible. Thank you. A little bit better thought
Yeah.
out in that regard.
Absolutely.
Because the writing was good overall. I did enjoy it. The acting was great, but just every now and then I was like, why the hell did they do that then?
Yeah, and I would have to like, and I like, you know, speaking of Maximus, because like, you know, there's just a lot about him that I just have to take down piece by piece. Like, for one, the Brotherhood of Steel, I don't understand what the elders saw in him when he said that he wanted him to be the sword.
Yeah.
Because of like the actions that he took. He literally was the reason why Knight Titus died.
Yeah. He was kind of a chump, by the way, Titus.
Yes,
Screaming and just going, fuck. I thought that was a little, I don't know.
They made him look like a bitch.
Yeah, honestly, they really did. And I would like to have seen him at least fuck up that Yaguai and maybe like die fighting it or something. Like, I don't know, go out like a badass at minimum. And they kind of made the Brotherhood look like chumps a lot of the time.
I agree. The thing is, though, and like, despite how bad Knight Titus was, like, he was obviously an asshole, and like, I understood like why Maximus did that to him, because like he literally threatened like to have him like, you know, suffer consequences for not helping him.
Yeah.
So Maximus like returns to the, you know, Brotherhood expecting to get like executed or like punished, but he ends up becoming, now he's like the right hand to the elder.
Right.
I don't understand that. I don't think like the Brotherhood would like find an initiate that killed a knight, stole his armor, pretended to be him, crossed the wasteland with a squire pretending to be the knight. Like, I just don't I don't get that, how they can just take that and just be like, oh yeah, like, you know, he's the sword now, he's the sword of Brotherhood of Steel, you know. I felt like they were too easy on that, and you know, I'm not so happy. Like, I don't like the direction that they're heading with the Brotherhood of Steel, honestly. Like, as much as I enjoyed it, and as much as I thought like some parts of it was interesting, I really don't like the direction that they're going, because obviously, I mean, it's just not them. You know,
it was kind of like, congratulations, you're all of a sudden the Archmage of the College of Winterhold without actually going through any of the missions at all. Yeah,
right.
agree.
He went from step 1 to step 50. Like, that's like literally like skipping through all sorts of different levels. Like, I don't know. I didn't get it. I thought the actor did an incredible job. I thought the way he plays the character, like, it really hits. Like, I really think that like when you see like him like as a child, you know, in the aftermath of Shady Sands, like, it's really sad, and it explains why he's so closed off emotionally. Like, the actor portrays that so fucking well, and I appreciate that. What I just don't like, though, is how the other Brotherhood, like the Brotherhood Elder, is so like, I don't know, he's just easily throws you know, leadership in his face.
Yes.
And you know, and I just I felt like it just didn't make any sense. Like, they should have given him, you know, they should have punished him. Honestly, I feel like the Brotherhood would have punished him, but maybe they would have given him like a light punishment. Like, maybe they would have been like, oh, like, you know, you're an initiate, but like, you know, you survived in the wasteland on your own, you know, and you went through so much, you know, so, you know, maybe we'll give you like a light punishment, you know, and like you can go.
It felt like he had a lot of plot armor.
Right, he had a lot of plot armor.
That's a great way to put it. I like that.
Yeah,
because I'm with you, and again, as you guys were saying earlier, when he, you know, he's posing as Knight Titus, and he says to his bully, his new squire, it is that very quick transition between like, I'm going to open up to you because we've had this heart to heart. You've explained why you bullied me, and I get it now. And then straight up, I'm going to kill you, because again, this will be really interesting to see how they explore it with his character, because he's quite happy to sit there and watch Titus die. He doesn't kill Titus. I suppose he does, you know.
He certainly doesn't help him, though, and I think that it kind of is killing him in a way.
Yeah, that's a whole philosophical conversation to be had.
Sure.
But no, you're right. But then he sort of carries the guilt with him, but then shows in other aspects that he doesn't care and that he will kind of stab people in the back. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, of course.
When he could have just said, well, Titus died and I didn't know what to do, so I took his power armor, etc.
To stay safe.
I am where I am.
Right.
Because as soon as the squire accuses him of killing Titus, that's when he could, do you know what I mean? There could have been some, you know, just a little bit of panic to defend himself, but it was just a straight up, oh, okay, no, you're going to die now. Right. And it, as you say, it just felt very jarring.
He's one of those characters where, like, and I'm sorry for interrupting, but like
No,
if
no,
he had
go, go.
just been a little more like if he had just said what happened and like been honest, a
Yeah.
lot of his problems would have been solved
Yeah.
immediately.
I
Or
agree.
just I think that's the thing, and I think this is maybe why I feel like he fell quite flat in, like I say, the beginning was great, the end was very strong in terms of his acting. The middle, I just didn't know where he fell
Hmm.
in terms of his moral compass. And that's the thing. I would have liked to have seen either, be scared, be vulnerable, and open up to the squire and explain what you've done, and that you're remorseful, or take charge of that and be an arsehole and say, yeah, no, I did let him die because I deserve the power armor.
Right.
It was just very grey in terms of I don't know how to feel about him. But then come the end of season 1, when they do have the cold fusion and he's being hailed as the hero, he was knocked out the whole time. He was bloody useless. It was just in the right place at the right time, and suddenly he's the hero. You can see that conflict in him when he knows he doesn't deserve the position that he's in. But then likewise, I'm wondering if it's purposely been left ambiguous, because it'll be very interesting to see what Maximus does going forward now that he is in a legitimate position of power.
Right.
I don't think he thinks he's earned it, but likewise, when he let Titus die, he was quite happy to let that happen. So we shall see.
He certainly, I didn't think, seemed like he had much remorse on his face when he was letting that happen. It was almost like he was kind of, and I mean, it kind of goes back to the thing about like, his bully. I just looked his name up. Thaddeus was his name.
That's
when he
said the third.
When he right, yeah, it explains like he just kind of he was bullied. Some guy comes in, he does the bullying because that's kind of just, frankly, that's sort of how the world.
Playground rules.
Not even just Fallout, but it's just kind of how the world works. And then I think it would have been nice for him to have like little flashbacks to Knight Titus doing the same thing to him, like bullying him, and then maybe showing a little remorse in that moment of like letting him die, because it's just kind of the way the world is. I do think that there's a lot of potential with Maximus, especially now that he's been put in a position of power. The Brotherhood has cold fusion. I think that, and I don't know if you can hear the fire trucks going on in my background because I do live in Atlanta and crime's everywhere. But yeah, I do think that there's a lot of potential to go with Maximus, and I'm curious to see what they do, especially since New Vegas at least appears to be messed up.
Yeah.
And I want to see what exactly they're going to be doing there. But yeah, overall, I thought he was good. I didn't really love the whole like, do you want to make my cock explode kind of thing. I thought that was sort of forced and unnecessary.
Yeah, I didn't really like his relationship with Lucy. I didn't.
That was forced. Yes, for sure.
I wasn't a fan of that.
He just
with cousin stuff
with him as soon as he
that made me
die.
Yeah.
The cousin stuff, I will say, did make me piss myself, because it occurred to me, I was like, well, what else do you do in a vault?
Right. I didn't like that at first, but the more I thought about it, it was like, yeah I guess that kind of makes it's like living in a small town, but like an even smaller town.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I did kind of start to be like, I guess that makes sense.
That was funny.
Yeah.
But overall, want to see more with Maximus.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. Very excited to see what they do with Maximus.
Me too. Obviously, by the way, I would say the Ghoul is the coolest character. And I think that he's like you said earlier, he's kind of already developed into a fan favorite. He was the best character, in my opinion, by far.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah. I've never seen Walton Goggins in anything oh, no. That's not fair. I've never seen Walton Goggins give a bad performance, regardless of what he was in.
Yeah.
For sure. And he was phenomenal. Tripping over my words now. He was phenomenal. And what I loved, as Mike said earlier, was he didn't know anything about the Fallout universe. He just went in completely blind. And I think one of the things that he said was that he thought it was very important to have someone, in the crew who had no idea what was going on. And he could, whenever I do anything at work, this is from my years of retail, or whenever I try and explain something to someone, I always have it in my head. Think of this from the point of view as a customer. Okay, you know what you're talking about. You know what this display is showing. Is the customer going to understand? Because they're a layperson. They don't have all the background knowledge that you have.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very much, I think, what Walton Goggins wanted to do. He wanted to be the customer and think like a customer because he didn't have all the background knowledge. And I think that really, really worked. And I absolutely loved his backstory with Cooper, and that we got to see so much of that, because I did wonder if we would get a flash of it, and that might be something they make us wait until season 2 for. And I think there's so much more to explore.
Yes.
Because obviously he's divorced. We find that out in the first episode.
Yep.
But yeah, where is Barb? Where is their daughter? I just think, because of how callous his character is, because of how long he spent living in a wasteland, and not only that, we know that this guy was a human. How did he become a ghoul?
Right.
He's lived in the absolute worst conditions. So, of course, he's going to be very cynical. He's going to be very defensive and protective, ruthless. But you still see that kind of pain and hesitation as he starts to kind of like warm up to Lucy a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You still see that kind of like underlying caring nature to him. Mm-hmm. And it just gives such a sort of well-roundedness to his character.
I guess maybe that naivety of Lucy he kind of saw maybe in his daughter a little bit, and that's kind of why he eventually sort of came around. So I like that about his character. And I really love that he was Vault Boy, by the way. Even giving like the explanation for the thumbs up thing about the whole like size of the bomb. I thought that was really cool. And it kind of gives a whole different like, not perspective on the why Vault Boy's giving that thumbs up, but it kind of does. Mm-hmm. Which I think is a pretty cool little detail for them to have added in.
Absolutely. I also like, I love how it kind of ties into still like the 1950s like political atmosphere with the Red Scare.
Yeah.
Like how pretty much everybody that was calling out the American government for like its corruption and like what they were doing and like pretty much essentially causing the end of the world. Mm-hmm. They were called a communist, So the Red Scare like still exists 120 years later. And I just really want to see how that kind of ties into the Enclave today, like with what they're doing presently. And I also wonder too, if this is a little off topic, like, speaking of ghouls, if the Chinese remnants are around, but all around Walton Goggins, like I knew that he was probably like, if the show was going to be bad, which obviously it isn't, I thought at the very least he was going to carry the show.
Yep.
Yeah.
But like, he is just, if anything, he just makes the whole show for me. Like he
carried a very good show.
Yes, he did.
But there wasn't much carrying to be done, to be fair to him.
Yeah.
No, right. And like everything all around was phenomenal. But just seeing also the difference between him as a human and him as a ghoul, and like you just see the psychological difference. I'm with you, Nick. Like I really want to see how he got to that point. I want to see how he also, like, not only did he physically turn into that, but how he psychologically became this fucking horrible, person. This not horrible, but just careless wastelander, which every wastelander is pretty much like. Everybody's, self, kind of out.
They're surviving. Yeah, exactly.
Well,
so
my question is, I'm going to start that again because I cut out. My question is, obviously, we know that Barb was working for Vault-Tec in a very high position. She even says to him, she lets it slip, I'm doing what I'm doing to make sure that we get into a good vault. And he's like, what do you mean a good vault?
Right.
And
that was a cool moment.
That was brilliant.
Yeah.
So obviously Barb is the one who tells us that, well, hey, if we just drop the bombs ourselves, then we can just, kickstart our plan into action. Because I think the meeting even begins with West-Tec. Is it West-Tec? Taking the piss out of Bud because the peace talks have been going really, really well. And that's why Vault sales have dropped. And then it's Barb who drops that on us. So
who drops that bomb on us?
Well, really? And this is my point, though. But here's my point in terms of dropping bombs, because Barb says, hey, well, let's just do it ourselves. When they do drop, Cooper's out working with his daughter.
Mm-hmm.
As a mother, Barb, why would she have allowed that? Do you know what I mean? If she knew exactly when the bombs were going to fall, she would. What's the daughter's name? I can't remember.
I can't either.
It was
Jack's on it.
Janie,
that's it. if Barb knew exactly when the bombs were going to fall, why on earth would she have let Janie out of her sight? And I do wonder as well, would she have allowed Cooper to retain his vault space for the sake of Janie?
Is she dead?
So, well,
I mean,
this is the question, isn't it?
I do kind of feel like she probably is, just because I think that's one reason why I hope we get a little bit more backstory to the Ghoul in season 2, which I feel like we will.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I hope that I feel like she has to be dead in order for him to kind of become the cynical asshole that he has become in the show,
Yes.
which I mean would certainly make anyone a cynical asshole.
But no, because he says to Hank, "Where's my wife? Like, where's my daughter?"
He could have been talking about. Well, I mean, I guess that's true, but maybe he just didn't know where she was buried or something. I don't know.
Well, now when he was running, when they were on their horse galloping away, he must obviously he was going somewhere.
Yeah.
So that brings me to think, maybe was he going to his wife? Was he going to where the Enclave is? Like, does he know about like a secret facility that other people don't? And maybe was he able to give his daughter to them? And maybe that's why he's asking where his daughter is, because maybe it's been 200 something years since he's seen her. So that could be a possibility. Maybe the mother just took her and kind of just said to him, "Fuck you," and just threw him out. And that's why maybe
if the mom's willing to nuke the world, essentially, I don't know. Like, I this may be a little bit far fetched, but like, would she really care that much about her daughter? Like, it seems like she's a little bit of a sociopath or like psychopath or something. I just wonder if maybe she was just kind of seeing her as a casualty of it more than anything.
I feel that Barb was certainly a girl boss for proposing such a move. It's bold and it's out there. Go off, Queen. But no, I hear you. It's a very valid question because would she just tell Coop?
Yeah,
right. No, you're not coming in.
And why was she one of Bud's buds? Do you think, or
who? Janie?
No, not Janie, the wife.
No, because Bud's buds were sort of like lower middle management. So
oh, really?
Betty
okay.
was the assistant who asks Cooper, can I introduce you to Henry, please? Henry, of course, is Hank. So it was all the middle managers, all the sort of like junior managers as such. So no, I think Barb was very much kind of very prominent within Vault Tech. It'd be interesting to see what vault she ended up in, if any, if she made it, or just Janie. I suppose Janie would have had a space in a vault.
I mean, I guess, but then because you're right, because he was galloping away on the horse with Janie. I guess maybe he would have been taking her to a vault, and maybe he didn't have, because they were divorced, he didn't have his own space in there.
Right.
But then I feel like he would know where they were. He would have just gone to that vault. So I don't know. I am very curious where they're going to go with the show. Season 2, obviously, especially the fact that it's in New Vegas, has a lot of potential.
I'm nervous.
Yeah. Well, I was nervous about this season 2, though. I really was. I did not have much hope for it, and I'm glad that it really exceeded my expectations, because I didn't have really many expectations, but it really surprised me in that regard. I was very impressed with it, and I didn't think that was going to be. Absolutely. Even Lucy. I thought Lucy played the whole naive vault dweller like immaculately.
I just want to talk briefly about Lucy, because you guys know better than anybody how much I struggle with female characters, because I just think their representation on the whole, I call it like everything is sort of benchmarked against Ellen Ripley, and it's very rare to find a female character that even comes close to that. And Lucy, I was very pleasantly surprised with, because she was very, very naive, but very well aware of that. She wasn't hysterical, because that's one thing that I hate, but she also wasn't a Mary Sue who just kind of stormed her way through everything and succeeded. Right. And I really, really liked it, because she had those moments of weakness, but they were never
overwhelming.
Yeah, they were never sort of like dramatized. I really, really enjoyed Lucy as a sort of realistic representation of a woman.
Right.
Obviously in a fictional, far-fetched world, but she was very, very fun to watch. I did not find it painful in the slightest. And that's a big thing for me. So yeah, I think Ella Purnell did a great job.
Which again is surprising after looking at the Lord of the Rings Amazon show. Like that's one of the biggest Mary Sues I've ever seen. So the fact that they didn't, they must have learned from that mistake because I thought Lucy was pretty good.
I will say, I don't want to say I told you so. I do. I love it. I do say, I think a lot of the team from the boys had a hand in Fallout, and that's kind of what kept my hope going because the boys has been phenomenal.
Oh yeah,
all the way through from start to finish. It's so strong. I just feel like it's going from strength to strength. And so when I sort of knew that a lot of that team were working on Fallout, I was like, all right, okay, cool. If we'd have had Lord of the Rings and Wheel of Time, cast, or not cast, but crew, then yeah, I'd have been a little bit more.
That's fair. That's fair. But, and I mean, it really kind of comes down more to like respecting source material and not like trying to, I don't know, like respecting what the fans like about things instead of just trying to rewrite them their own way, which I would say that, even in terms of like the props in the show were all amazing. They looked exactly like they do in the games, which I loved. The guns look the exact same.
The pistols, the 10mm pistol was an outright copy, I think, of Fallout 4. I think they took a lot of it from Fallout 4 because there's certainly in Philly there are certain shots that look exactly like Diamond City. And it's perfect. Yeah, it's beautiful. And I think it's it's kind of half on purpose, half not, to kind of really give us that immersion. But yeah, I was so impressed with all the props and the sets. Definitely.
Yeah, really phenomenal.
Definitely.
Surprisingly so, honestly.
Yeah. I'm so happy that like they're finally touching on the West Coast too. Like Fallout fans like have been waiting for a West Coast like plotline for such a long time. Like it's since New Vegas. Because Bethesda, ever since they took over the Fallout series, they've only focused on the East Coast, which is fine. The East Coast is definitely interesting, but the West Coast is truly paying homage to the original Fallout. And that's what myself and I'm sure a lot of fans and obviously you guys too are, looking, want to see is, I would like to see accuracy to the lore. I would like to see references to old characters. There are a lot of characters that are from, the old games that can show up. Obviously New Vegas characters, some Fallout 2 characters that were in New Vegas can show up. I mean, I'm excited to see where they can take it. And when you said the boys, there was a couple people on the boys that were involved with the show. Like, I feel like everybody that was involved in the show all around was just great. Like Jonathan Nolan, like just the fact that one of the Nolan brothers is involved with the writing of the show, and he's going to be involved with season 2.
Oh, cool! That's already confirmed.
Yeah,
cool. That's good to know.
Yeah, and I also heard that Aaron Paul really wants to be in the show, and I am really curious onto what kind of character he can play, like in the show, because I mean, I can totally imagine him like in that like wasteland desert kind of atmosphere, like in New Vegas. I really see him as like the courier. If the courier is alive, I see him as Aaron Paul. I don't know why.
You said it's only 15 years after New Vegas, right? Something like that. I mean, I feel like that's a short enough transition to where you could keep every character in that show or in that game alive into the show if you were so inclined. So I'm and like I said, they're going to have to make a decision on what the official canon is for New Vegas, and I'm really excited to see what they do with that because that's going to be a tough decision for them to like make.
I hope it's Mr. House, and I'm
obviously you think it's Mr. House.
Really?
I'm going to rub it in. I'm going to rub it in so deeply.
There's no way. I really don't think that it's going to be Mr. House at all. I think that would be way too specific, and like I think things would be too happy, and they wouldn't have because. Well, I mean, look in the credits when they're zooming out and you see the Deathclaw skull and you see the vertibird on the ground. Like, there's no way the Deathclaw took out the vertibird unless those things can jump like 100 feet in the air, which I don't think that they can do. So, what took out the vertibird?
That's an NCR vertibird too, by the way.
Right.
Have you seen any reason for a Deathclaw to need to jump up so high yet?
I don't think so. Is that?
It's not a spoiler. It's your speculation. I'm just
okay.
I am. My next question, to be fair for you guys, was going to be what what would you want to see in season 2, and what kind of things would absolutely grate on you?
I'd like
Because
to see
if we're
the
going to talk
Boomers.
death claws,
The Boomers are my favorite faction in New Vegas so far. I really like their whole setup. Because I don't know, they're gonna have the bomber, right? If they stick with the game, like they're going to have the bomber and be unbelievably powerful in that
Mhm.
regard. So I'm curious what they're gonna do with that, unless I guess it crashed or they ran out of fuel or something, which I could also understand. But
Right. Unless they got wrecked,
right. I mean, maybe they're the ones that took out the vertibird. Maybe they were fighting the bombers or something like that, and that's why New Vegas is so fucked up. I guess we're gonna see.
They like to keep to their own, though. You know, they don't like to.
They
You know,
do.
like it's kind of like if you like walk toward their territory, they'll fuck you up. Otherwise, like
Yes.
you know, the only reason why they got involved was because of the courier. You know,
Yes.
the courier is like he is literally like
The key.
The key.
Yeah.
Yes, he is the key to the wasteland. He is the guy that brings all the factions together. Like I mentioned before, I really want to see the courier. I want to see who betrays the courier. I want to see what the courier did. What
I think
ending.
Aaron Paul would be a good courier too. Honestly, he's about the age that it would make sense. So
Absolutely.
I think you could play that. You could play that off really, really well. Definitely.
Totally.
Absolutely. Like I really want
yeah,
to see
Mr. House.
Yeah, yo, Mr. House. Yeah.
Yep, science.
I want to see Rex. I want to see the Kings.
Okay,
I
yeah.
want to see what happened to the Great Khans. I
like them too. The Great Khans are cool.
What happened to Caesar's Legion. I want to see if there's any remnants of Caesar's Legion. I'm sure we'll definitely get something. I want to see the Fiends, the Powder Gang. I mean, there's a million factions. The 3 families, you know.
That's the thing about New Vegas is that they have the best factions by far compared to the other ones that I at least remember. Because, you know, even in like Fallout 4, I sided with the Brotherhood, but I didn't really love the Brotherhood. They were just the ones that I didn't disagree with the most, as opposed to in New Vegas, which they all seem really kind of cool and like I understand where they're coming from in their own ways. So that's really one reason why I tend to exactly.
I love the Brotherhood of Steel Mojave chapter. They are technocrats to a T. Yeah. Like they are the original Brotherhood, the way it should be, and that's what I love about them. And it's just so interesting because their whole dynamic, and when you just God. We could talk about that for days about the factions in New Vegas because of how good all of them are.
We probably will. Maybe next week we'll talk about just how sick all the factions are. And you know what I was thinking, since you mentioned the Outcasts earlier, it would be cool to have the Outcasts in New Vegas and have them be like the official technocrats, like you're saying. Like they would be.
I hope maybe. Otherwise, maybe they're just all swept and wiped out. Maybe you know.
Fair.
Actually, I don't want to spoil anything. I can't tell you one of the things that you can do. So.
I mean, like I can take my headset off for a second if you want. And I literally said there were going to be spoilers.
No.
So
no.
If I get spoiled, I guess that's really just kind of what I have to deal with.
And there is one character that I am really curious about because he has big ties to the Enclave. And he was young enough in New Vegas, and he's probably still alive too. I really want to see what R.K. Gannon is going to do.
Yes.
If he's still alive, if he has anything to do with season 2, because my only reason for seeing Lucy's dad show up in New Vegas is looking for the Enclave, and those are the only connections to the Enclave in New Vegas, right?
Well, so it said that he was going there to because that's where he was getting his orders from. So it's really more just like who specifically is he getting his orders from, and I feel like they're going to use Mr. House for that or something like that.
Maybe not. I don't. It could be somebody that we don't know. It could be a completely
That's fair.
We know that there are Enclave remnants within the Mojave. We know that. I very much doubt it's. I'm not defending Mr. House because he's a piece of shit. But I
all
doubt
you do
it
is
would
defend
be.
Mr. House.
Right. Listen. Okay.
Anyways, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's fine.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I know I do. I'm not defending his integrity because, like I say, he is a piece of shit. I just find it would be very weird for Mr. House, I think, to be sending orders to Vault-Tec because I don't think that their vision aligns with his. That's not to say he's not doing other sort of like heinous shit. But yeah, I do feel like it'll be more the kind of like Enclave remnants and possibly Arcade Gannon. So we shall see. One thing I do want to talk about briefly is, and I've got some ridiculous questions to ask you guys. I think it's inevitable that we're going to see a Deathclaw at some point.
Yep.
And we all know that the New Vegas Deathclaws are horrifying.
Yep.
Obviously not in Quarry Junction where there's lots of treasure to be found, Jack.
Oh yeah, okay, noted.
One thing that I'm really hopeful for is, so like the Yao guy in season 1, Maximus took that out with a single bullet. I don't know about you guys. It takes a little bit more than that, which is fine. You know, it's a different setting. I need them to show the Deathclaws as terrifying as
like unstoppable hulking juggernauts.
Like in New Vegas.
Yeah.
One of the things that really, really grated me about Fallout 4 was that your introduction, you know, you kind of leave Sanctuary, you come out into
Concord.
That's it. To pick up your power armor, and this Deathclaw just jumps out of the sewers.
Yeah.
And you
kill it yourself.
Job. Yeah, and you completely murk it. And that's your introduction to the game. Whereas what I loved about New Vegas was that little trap on the way, you know, you try and make a beeline straight for the strip and you go through Quarry Junction. They will fuck you up quite quickly. And without mercy.
I remember the memes based on that stuff when that game came out on like Reddit and stuff. I remember people talking about that all the time because it was so horrifying.
That's it. And it is horrifying. And what I don't want them to do is kind of show the Deathclaws, but in a very similar way to Fallout 4, where it's
they're killable. They need to be like aliens, like the alien queen or something. It needs to be like horrifying and like not something that one person can defeat.
Agreed. Or they've got to find a way to sneak around them. That's what I want to see.
Ooh, yeah.
It needs to be a sequence where they're not fighting them. They're running for their fucking life.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right. That's exactly what they need.
Those Deathclaws, dude. God, there's no chance that fucking Lucy and the Ghoul are going to be able to survive a fight against them. It's just not possible.
Yeah.
I don't care how strong you are.
It would be nice to see the Ghoul, because the Ghoul was he was pretty badass the whole time, even when dealing with dudes in power armor. So it would be nice to see him horrified of Deathclaws, because he knows just how dangerous they are. I think that would be a really good way to convey just how dangerous Deathclaws are.
Yeah, stumbling across a nest and knowing like, oh, fuck,
and booking it. Yeah.
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 Or realizing that they're trapped.
Ooh. There's a lot of potential with where they can go with it, and honestly, I'm significantly more excited about season 2 than I was about season 1. I hope I just hope they don't let us down.
I hope they don't.
They didn't hear.
I don't think they will. I don't think they will.
Yeah.
They didn't really let us down the first season. I don't think they'll let us down again. Like I think they're going to try and really stick to their guns, and also they're going to stick to the old stuff, and they're also going to try and introduce new things, and that's what I appreciate. So I like the combination, the balance, you know, because I always want to learn. I always want to learn new things in the Fallout universe, but I also want to see things that I know, see things that are referenced to the past. I want to see little homages, you know, to the old games, because they deserve respect, and newer players and newer fans should know about them. They should not be forgotten, you know.
I mean, Walton Goggins said, I'm pretty sure, I'm not making this up. I'm pretty sure Walton Goggins said that he was like the only person that didn't really know a lot about Fallout when he went in to like discuss this show when they started making it. And even Lucy, I think I saw an interview recently about whatever her name is. It's
Ella Purnell.
Ella Purnell. She was getting interviewed by some random dude who was like, I heard you played all the Fallout games before you started doing this show. And he asked some dumb question like, was that a complete waste of time? Literally, I think verbatim he asked that. And she was like, no. And she, you know, the fact that she actually like gave them a shot, good for her. It's like, you know, when they brought in the second guy that played Dumbledore in the Harry Potter movies, and he like didn't even read the books, despite the fact that he's getting paid tens of millions of dollars to play that role. Like, I think that's kind of a mistake. You have to go check the source material, and if you just respect source material, I think that you're going to make something cool. And as long as they do that, I think they can make something very cool.
Well, that's why he didn't calmly ask Harry Potter if he put his
your name in the Goblet of Fire. Yeah. Totally.
But
all right, random question. If you lived in the wasteland, what would your job be? What job would you want to be doing?
Jack.
You want
You'd
to be
want to
doing
be
Jack?
you'd want to be doing me.
No. I'm saying go first. I'm saying go first. Fuck you.
Both of
Fuck
us.
you.
Both of us, Nick. We
Yeah,
made
fair.
it legit. Yeah, the girl. You can see the horror in his eyes when he.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's obviously a really difficult question, and like I'm not gonna pick something easy like, oh, I run a casino. Um, I don't know. That's a tough one. You have to have warned us about that one. That's something I'm gonna have to noodle. But I don't know. I think courier could be cool because at least you get to travel around.
True.
What about you,
So
Nick?
yeah, I'll just go with courier. Mike, Miguel.
Uh, uh, fuck. um, like that's tough. Like you said, that's a tough fucking question.
Yep.
What would I do? What the fuck would I do?
You
I'd
want to
probably
be
just like
Kaisar himself?
shut up. Yeah, maybe.
Running a podcast.
Yeah, I'd be like a warlord.
Oh,
I'd be
something like Three Dog. That'd be cool. Have a little
Yeah,
radio
yeah.
show.
Out of here.
But a Legion podcast across the
Yeah.
wasteland.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Hail Caesar!
I have a Legion, man.
Yeah, Hail Caesar, everybody!
All
Yeah.
right, new lottery, everybody, get ready for that.
No, I'd be like a caravan. Like I'd be like running it, like walking like in a caravan, because that's a lot of traveling. It's not a safe life, but it's a lot of traveling, and I would be a caravan in Legion territory because it's very safe. So
sure.
Nick, what about you? What would you do?
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind. Maybe I say wouldn't mind.
As she checks her notes, do you have like a huge list of things that you would like to do in the wasteland?
Okay. I would like to. I would probably be better suited, maybe working for the Brotherhood, managing all the information.
Okay.
So is it the Citadel in Fallout 3, where they have all the archives?
You'd be like a scribe.
So you'd be a scribe, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'd be a scribe. I'd be doing all the information management, all that kind of thing. I think I'd be very good at that. However, I am a woman, and the wasteland's not a very nice place, so I would probably, I reckon, end up being trafficked to Gomorrah, if I'm completely honest. But given the choice, yeah, I'd probably just be a scribe.
I think Jack would belong really well with the White Glove Society. I don't know about
You're an idiot.
I think so too.
You're an idiot. I've done those quests. I know what they're all about. You're menu item number 1, motherfucker.
Literally, wow.
That's right.
Literally proving my point.
Yeah.
No, but the Fallout universe is just so fucking amazing, and I feel like there's so much to cherish about New Vegas. It's such a small game with a lot of personality. You know,
yes, definitely.
Absolutely.
A lot of style in it, and in the writing, there's a lot of style, which I like.
Yeah.
And
I don't think I really hope in the future this besides the show, they can come out with a game that sort of like has that feel again, because the last Fallout games as much as people enjoy them, there really isn't that kind of, you don't get that feel, you don't get that feel that you get in New Vegas. So I like to see that again. I like to feel that again, that excitement.
Yeah, agreed. I guess to wrap it up, overall, what would we can score it however you want or grade it however you want. If you want to do like A, B, C, D, F, if you want to do like 1 to 10, 1 to 100, I don't care. Like, what would you all, in terms of like, acting, cinematography, writing, all that stuff?
I'm gonna grade between. I'm gonna do a 1 to 10. I think that's the easiest.
Yeah.
I would probably give it a 7.5.
Okay.
I think the writing was a little bit weak. There were a few mistakes that I think, not necessarily mistakes. I think there were a few areas that could have been tightened up, but on the whole, I think it's pretty faithful to the lore.
Yeah, I would agree.
There were some pretty awesome characters. Some of them just needed a little bit more work, but I think we'll see more from them in season 2. But yeah, rest.
And see, I don't think it's not like we're IGN where they don't give anything below like a 7. Like I like to use the whole scale of like 1 to 10 in order to like grade something. So I think a 7, like I think a 6 is like good. I think a 5 is maybe like entertaining. 4, and then 3, 2, 1 are obviously not so hot. But like, yeah, I think a 7.5 is probably about it. I'd give it maybe like just slightly higher. I don't think I would put it into like the 8s, which is maybe like one of the better shows ever. 9s are like immaculate. So I'd say probably maybe like a 7.7, something like
Yeah.
that. 7.7.
I
Fair
guess I
enough.
would have to agree with you guys. Like coming back to that, like I know I said A-, but thinking about it, because like I'm just with the shit that I wasn't happy about with the Brotherhood, I would probably bring it close to that, probably like a 7.8, 7.9, like, you know, just below an 8, just because it, you know, there was, you know, there's still some things that aren't inaccurate, like the Fall of Shady Sands, the
Yeah.
year that they put
I know
there.
that bothered you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's Todd Howard has spoken. You know, old
Oh,
head
really?
Todd.
Has he?
Yeah, I think he's explained it as I'm going to get this wrong, so you guys can Google it. I think he's explained that as kind of like the descend at the beginning. It's not the bombs as such.
Oh.
The community started
Not the
to fall
actual
apart.
final destruction.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay. I guess that makes a little bit more sense. Although, what does Todd Howard know about writing anymore? Anyway.
No, he doesn't.
Wow. Wow.
Honestly, I
Wow.
guarantee that was just a fucking mistake, and he tried to explain
up.
it anyway.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unless you guys have got anything else to add, I think that's about it from us today. Thank you to the whole, I don't know, one person maybe who's watched this from beginning to end. We'll do this on a weekly basis. Like we said at the beginning, if you've got any suggestions that you know, things that you want us to watch and talk about that you think could be fun or controversial for us to argue about, we're dead open to that. But yeah, thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next week.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, especially because we don't always agree on everything. So
Oh no.
any suggestions
not.
I'm happy with, and I like trying new stuff. Cool.
Yeah, please
Okay.
give me a reason to rip these people apart. So.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that's gonna happen.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Right, fantastic. Until next time, thank you very much.
All right,
Thank you guys.